2024 has been a wild year for horror movies. A lot of hits, a lot of misses, but these are my favorite 10 horror films of the year that I think everybody should watch. Welcome back to the Not Stop Horror YouTube channel. My name is Cameron, and in this video I'm talking about my favorite horror films of the year so far. It's October, it's spooky season, so everybody is gearing up to watch horror films this month. You probably don't have all the time in the world, so I hope that this list helps you narrow down some films to check out this spooky season. Now, I wanted to wait to make this video until I watched The Substance, and boy am I glad that I did. I checked out The Substance a couple nights ago in theaters, and it was great. We're gonna get to it, but I'm glad to be finally putting out this video. So I'm gonna be going over 10 of the best horror movies to come out this year, and later on in the video I'm gonna be talking about some disappointments and some movies that I haven't checked out yet. So if your favorite isn't on my top 10, it's possible that it's because I just haven't seen it yet. Make sure to like the video and subscribe if you like consuming horror content all year long. And if you want to further support the channel, become a member as well for $5 a month. I believe the subscribe button turns into a join button to do so. And if you want to join in on daily horror discussions, make sure to follow us over on Threads as well. Now let's get to my top 10 horror movies of 2024 list. Remember, this is all subjective. It's all fun and games. These are my personal favorites. It's highly unlikely that my list is going to match up exactly with your list, but I encourage you to let me know what your favorite horror movies of the year have been so far down in the comments. For every movie on my list, I'm also going to let you know where you can watch it, so it's nice and convenient for you if any of these spark your interest and you want to go check them out. In my number 10 spot, I have Arcadian. It's like a post-apocalyptic creature feature. It stars Nicolas Cage, and it's about he and his two sons surviving in this new post-apocalyptic world. It's basically a typical survival horror where at night these creatures come and try to invade your home and things like that. So it's kind of a typical plot, but there's a lot of great imagery. And yeah, this one just kind of surprised me. You can currently find it over on Shudder. In my number 9 spot, I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this one, but Tarot is in this spot. I know I'm one of the very few people who actually liked Tarot. It's one of my favorites of the year, obviously, but it's a movie about a group of college kids who are staying at this huge Airbnb mansion for one of their birthdays. They run out of alcohol, so they go down into the basement of this Airbnb and find all of these like weird oddities. And among these items are a bunch of tarot cards, and they do this tarot reading. So they're doing this tarot reading, and the last card that the chick flips over for each person kind of foreshadows their death. And the movie is them trying to escape these foreshadowed deaths. It's rated PG-13, so it's not gonna get too crazy, but it's just a fun, turn your brain off kind of horror movie for me. It's not a masterpiece, it's not complex or anything like that. It was just an enjoyable experience. In my movie review for Tarot, I described it as Final Destination meets 13 Ghosts. Each of the tarot cards has like a creature that represents it that comes out in the movie, and the Final Destination part is just them trying to escape the deaths. So if that sounds like it's up your alley, go stream this movie over on Netflix. I'm gonna talk about number 7 and number 8 together because they're just so similar in theme, but I do think that it's worth watching both of them individually. This is Immaculate and the first Omen, and honestly, I could just flip-flop between the two, whether one goes into 7 or 8. It could really go either way. They're both available on Hulu. They're both religious horror, and both of their plots center around the idea of giving birth to the Antichrist. I put off watching the first Omen for so long because I saw Immaculate first. We went and saw it in theaters, and I really enjoyed Immaculate. It's got Sydney Sweeney in it, so many great scenes in it. Sydney Sweeney has solidified herself as a modern day scream queen. But yeah, I put off watching the first Omen because I figured it would be just a rehash of Immaculate and I'd get the same experience with both movies, but that couldn't have been farther from the truth. The first Omen blew me away when I watched it. As I'm talking about it now, I might slightly put the first Omen above Immaculate, I don't know. But also these two movies end very differently. The endings are completely different, so that's another reason why you should watch both of them instead of just thinking that you could get the same experience from one over the other. And again, both of them involve a nun in training that travels to a foreign country to kind of take her place in a covenant. So yeah, so many similarities in these movies. It's really kind of crazy that they came out in the same year together, but they're both worth a watch. They're both available on Hulu. And so if you're looking for some religious nun horror, these two movies are going to satisfy that itch for you. Longlegs was one of the most anticipated horror movies of 2024, and I believe that it lived up to the hype. This one also stars Nicolas Cage. It also stars Micah Monroe, and it's about Micah Monroe's character, who is kind of a rookie FBI agent as she tries to help the FBI take down this serial killer who goes by the name of Longlegs, played by Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is unrecognizable in this film, and he does an amazing job in his role. This movie gives off Seven, Prisoners, Zodiac vibes, all of those, and that's why I was looking forward to it so much. I'd say about 2/3 into the movie, it diverges in its plot severely from those three movies, so kind of go into it expecting that. But I personally still really enjoyed the ending. If you want a deep dive into this movie, I did do a live stream when it first came out. If you go to like the main Nonstop Horror YouTube page and go to the live tab, you can find it there. But I go really in depth to it there. But Longlegs had like an ARG with it, which means like outside of the movie, there was a whole lot of marketing and like hidden things that you could find, like a phone number to call and a weird website, stuff like that. So yeah, just everything involved with Longlegs made it quite the experience, and I think it lived up to the hype. A lot of people have compared Longlegs to Silence of the Lambs as well. So if any of that feels like it would float your boat, go watch Longlegs. Unfortunately, Longlegs isn't streaming quite yet, but you can rent it or buy it digitally, and I'll leave a link down in the description that'll lead you right to that. Late Night with the Devil. This is one of the more unique horror films of the year. It's a supernatural horror film about a struggling talk show host who is desperately trying to climb to the top of the radio charts. On Halloween night 1977, he invites an allegedly possessed girl onto the show to boost his ratings. This one goes for a 70s aesthetic and totally nails it. David Dastmalchian is the lead in this, and he kills it. This is also a film that benefits from a rewatch. There are a lot of different interpretations of how the movie ends and a lot of themes throughout the whole thing. But yeah, because this one takes place on Halloween night, it's the perfect movie to watch in October, maybe even save it for October 31st. But yeah, I'm itching for a rewatch already, so I know that I'm going to be watching this one in October. You can find this one over on Shudder. And keep in mind, any movie that I mentioned that's on Shudder, like Shudder is like $6 or $7 a month. And you can sign up for a free trial as well to just check it out and see if the catalog is worth the time and money. And you can sign up for Shudder right through Amazon Prime Video. It's nice and easy. I'll leave a link to do so down below as well. In my number 4 spot, I have another Shudder exclusive. This one is called Exhuma. Exhuma is an atmospheric Korean folk horror with heavy detective vibes. It's about two men who specialize in grave plots, and they're hired to move an ominous, potentially cursed gravesite. And due to the incompetence of others, dreadful consequences are unleashed. This is a really unique film. It's beautifully shot. Foreign horror is so underrated and underappreciated in my eyes, and Exhuma is just an example of beautiful horror cinema. I think it's going to be a sleeper hit of this year. I don't think many people are talking about it, but it is just so good. It outshines a whole lot of horror that has come out this year. There are a lot of shocking moments and twists that just elevate this movie to the next level. It kind of felt like two separate movies at one point. It just like completely takes a wild turn, like a lot of Asian horror does, but that doesn't take away from the quality, and it's just definitely worth a watch. So if you're into Asian folklore and Korean folklore specifically, Exhuma is the way to go. It's over on Shudder, and you won't regret watching this one. In my number 3 spot, I have Alien Romulus. This was one of my favorite theater experiences of the year. I watched it in IMAX, and this was just quite the spectacle to see on the big screen. I think it is still showing at some theaters, so if you can slide in and get a showing near you, definitely do it before it comes to streaming, because the experience just won't be the same at home. This is the same director who did Don't Breathe and the Evil Dead remake, so you know we're in good hands. And it being part of the Alien franchise, it's obviously highly anticipated. It takes place between Alien and Aliens, the first two movies, so there's a little bit of context plot-wise to go along. And it's about a group of young adults who want to escape their home, where they're slaves pretty much, but in order to do so, they need to scavenge an abandoned spacecraft for cryopods so they can make the long journey to the place that they're trying to travel to. But when they get to the spacecraft, which is made up of two structures, one is Romulus and one is Remus, they find out that it's not as abandoned as they think, and as you can guess, there are xenomorphs up there. The cinematography was unmatched, one of the best looking films of the year. It serves as an amazing bridge between the newer films like Prometheus and Alien Covenant to the older films, and plot-wise it fits in perfectly within the first two. There is a big debate about whether the AI use in this film was overdone. I think it was overdone, and probably is the biggest deterrent of the film. Like, maybe it could have been like a 9 out of 10, but it's down to like a 7.5 out of 10 because of it. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil that plot point, especially if you're a fan of the older films. But just know that there is some debate around like the usage of AI, kind of with Late Night with the Devil. And rather than like AI generated images, it has more to do with like deep fake technology, that's all I'll say about that. I'd highly recommend revisiting some of the Alien films before going into Romulus. Like, best case scenario, watch Alien, Aliens, Prometheus, and Alien Covenant. But otherwise, I'd say maybe at least check out Alien and Aliens. However, there is enough exposition in Romulus to go in blind if you need to. So yeah, if you're looking to scratch that itch of alien, space, sci-fi, horror, Alien Romulus is definitely the movie that you want to check out. Okay, so in my number 2 spot is another surprise. This one is called Oddity. I saw it in theaters, but I feel like it wasn't promoted enough to really get that push that it deserved in theaters. It is currently streaming on Shudder. It is like a Shudder film. I think Shudder like backed it financially. So you can go watch it. It's not in theaters anymore, but it was an amazing theater experience. I think when I went to the theater, there was like one other person in the theater, which is a great experience for me. It just added to the creepy vibes of it. But it's about an Oddity shop owner who travels to the home of her now dead twin sister, and she's basically trying to solve her murder and find out what happens. The trailer for this movie is very effective. It just basically shows you the first scene. And it's a great setup. It's very intriguing and makes you just ask a million questions just with that one scene. It's directed by Damien McCarthy, who also directed Caveat. There's a lot of cool little Easter eggs in this one. The atmosphere and creepiness of this film is where it shines. They did a really good job with that. The oddity aspect could have been explored a little bit more, but she does bring this like weird wooden creepy statue with her to help with the investigation, which is a really pretty cool plot point throughout the whole film. So a couple of things to note looking back at my movie review of Oddity. I mentioned that I would rate it like a 6.5 out of 10, and it was like maybe middle of the road, and it was like dark aesthetically in the theater, so I was worried about how it would look streaming it at home. But since then I rewatched it with my wife, and a rewatch actually really helped. It looked great on our TV. It wasn't too dark. Yeah, the atmosphere just pulled me in again and it elevated the film. I'm not sure what it was about the rewatch, but I just really enjoyed watching it with another person this time around, and that's why it's made its way so high up on my list now. Yeah, it's just a really surprising film, not getting a lot of buzz around it, but I think it's well worth a watch, and that's why it's up here at number 2 on my list. Now, before I get to my number 1 spot for the best horror film of 2024, I want to hear down in the comments what your favorite movie of the year so far has been. Have you seen all the ones on this list? Which ones are you looking forward to watching, and which ones are you adding to your list? Let's hear them. So in my opinion, the best horror movie of 2024 so far is The Substance. Like I mentioned in the intro, I was waiting to make this video until I saw The Substance in theaters, because I could just tell that The Substance was going to blow me away and that it was going to top most of the horror films of the year. Didn't necessarily anticipate that it would be number 1, but here we are, and there might be a little bit of recency bias in there with it, but we'll see when we get to the end of the year and I do my video then. But as of right now, The Substance is just the best horror movie of the year so far in my opinion. And if you don't know, The Substance is a body horror film. It stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, Randy Quaid. It's about Demi Moore's character, who is kind of an aging star in Hollywood, and she gets fired from her like exercise yoga video job, and she is yearning to have a younger, more beautiful self. And apparently there's this company that makes this, they just call it The Substance, that makes you younger and beautiful and solves that issue that she's having in very crazy ways. So yeah, that's the general theme. It's about aging. I feel like there's a very great message here about the idea of aging and wanting to be young and beautiful, and the objectification, is that the word, of women. Third act goes way off the rails. It gets so crazy and wild. I will get into a lot more details in my full review of The Substance, which will be coming out soon, because The Substance just deserves its own full review. So we're going to get to that. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're looking forward to a full review on that. The body horror elements are evident throughout. The sound design just makes you cringe at some points, but like in the best body horror way. But yeah, there's body horror all throughout. It's not just in the last act of the movie, which is great. The camera work and the editing is just so unique and different than any other horror movie you're going to watch this year. And the runtime is 2 hours and 26 minutes, and it doesn't feel that long at all. It's just like, it's very well paced. I was never bored. And yeah, just some of the imagery in this movie is going to stick with you for a really long time. A lot of unique ideas thrown into this one. And yeah, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil too much of it, but I worry that it won't be in theaters for much longer. But if you can watch The Substance in theaters, do it. Hopefully it'll be streaming by the end of the month if it leaves theaters. But yeah, The Substance is 100% worth watching. It's just bonkers. I'd say that The Substance is kind of like, how did I describe it? Late Night with the Devil and Society and Requiem for a Dream all had a baby. I know that's a wild way to put it, but it reminds me of so many movies at different points throughout the whole thing. You can see the inspiration, and it's just all put together so beautifully. So yeah, as of right now, The Substance is still in theaters, but I don't see it staying in theaters too much longer. I feel like there wasn't very much promotion or push for people to see it in the theaters. The showing that I went to was pretty empty, so I fear that it won't be in theaters too much longer. But if it does leave theaters, hopefully it's streaming or on VOD very quickly after that, before October is over, because you should definitely see The Substance in any way possible. But yeah, I don't want to spoil too much about The Substance. Like I said, I will be doing a full review of that, so make sure to like and subscribe if you're looking forward to a full in-depth review of The Substance on this channel. Well, there you go, guys. Those are, in my personal opinion, the top 10 horror movies of 2024 so far. And I just want to mention this batch of movies that I have not watched yet, because I know that they're at the top of a lot of people's horror movie lists of this year. I have not seen Abigail, Maxine, Cuckoo, or Strange Darling yet. I have no doubt that those are good films. I just haven't gotten to them yet. There's also a movie called Double Blind that I haven't gotten to yet. I know that some of these are at the top of a lot of people's horror movie lists, so I am looking forward to watching them. I just haven't gotten to them yet. And still to come, we still have Smile 2, Nosferatu, Terrifier 3, Heretic. All those are still yet to come this month or later on. So come back at the end of the year to see how this list has changed. I'm going to try and keep my list to 10 at the end of the year as well. So we'll see which movies get knocked off the list. And if you're here so that you know which movies to skip this year, well, I have a few of those as well. These movies were big disappointments. I was kind of looking forward to them, but they just fell hard on their face. They fell flat for me. I have 3 movies that were disappointments this year. Trap I was looking forward to because I love Josh Hartnett and I like M. Night Shyamalan, but it just fell flat, especially in the third act. Like, they just did not know how to wrap that movie up. And A Violent Nature was overhyped and boring, and I just did not like it. It's a Shudder original, which is a shame because I love Shudder, but this movie just wasn't it. And then A Quiet Place Day One it's a huge popular franchise, and so I thought it'd be really good, but it's really just a family drama in a horror wrapper, but not in a good way like Hereditary. So yeah, those 3 movies I was looking forward to, and they were just a huge letdown. So maybe you think differently. If you liked either of those movies, let me know in the comments. All right, friends, there it is. Those are my top 10 horror movies of 2024 so far. I appreciate you joining me on this little journey today. I'd love to hear what your favorites of the year have been so far as well. If any of these movies sound good to you and you haven't seen them yet, make sure to use the links down in the descriptions to head over to watch them. And yeah, I appreciate you being here. Like the video if you found it useful. Subscribe for more fun, exciting, and informative horror content all year long. I hope you guys have a great spooky season. Let me know what you guys are doing in the month of October. I have so many plans. It's gonna be fun. This is the best time of the year, right? We all know that. Appreciate you being here. And remember to embrace the fear all year long.